everyone, welcome to another video. As you can tell, I'm a little bit under the weather today, but I still wanted to film because it's been quite a minute since I have filmed anything. So I had the day off today and I decided, why not? Let's film something. As you already know, last year I didn't really have a good reading year. I read under 10 books, which is probably the least amount of books I've read in the past. I don't know how long, like a decade. So it was kind of a low achievement, but still I was reading throughout the year. I'm still happy about that. However, this year I do want to at least read 10 books, and today it's a little gloomy, it's raining, so I thought today was a good day to film all the autumn winter books that I wanted to get through this year. I guess this is a TBR video. Without further ado, let's get on with all the books that I plan to read. I would like to admit that I don't follow TBRs to the T, but I like to kind of have a stack there so I know what books I kind of want to read in the following few months to come. I am also a mood reader. It depends on how I feel, on the weather, on what kind of stories I want to pick up. Currently though, I am in the process of reading The Stolen Heir by Hly Black. This is part of the Folk of the Air series, I suppose. It is a spin-off from the Cruel Prince trilogy. Hly Black has a whole slew of different series that is part of the Folk of the Air world. If you have been following my channel, you know that I'm a big fan of the Cruel Prince trilogy. It's not like a literary award-winning book series, but it's definitely a fun kind of folklorish fantasy that I just enjoy, and I always like the characters. Usually in the Folk of the Air world, all the fairies and fae and all the creatures are really messed up and they're quite evil, which I like that take on fae because, you know, in folklore they are often mischievous and cruel, so I definitely appreciate that kind of depiction when it comes to this world, and I've been liking this so far. I do like the main character. There's kind of a mystery aspect of what's going on, and you're kind of going along this journey with this girl. She's not a girl, she's a fae, but our main protagonist, she's kind of got a bit of a monstrous fae look. She ends up going on this journey with the Prince of Elfham to acquire some items. So far, that's where I'm up to right now. Honestly, I'm going into this story kind of blind. I knew nothing about it. I just knew that it had Oak from the Cruel Prince series, and this is taking place many years after the Cruel Prince trilogy because Oak was like a little child in that series, but now he's like a grown adult and he's still the prince. It's been a while since I've read the Cruel Prince trilogy, but yes, I thought Oak was crowned king. Maybe they took the throne back from him, or maybe they're waiting for him to grow up, but he's already a grown... I'm confused. Anyway, I guess things will be revealed later on what's going on in Elfham, but yes, I am liking the story so far. It was definitely a bit of a risk going back into a Hly Black book because in the month of January and February I was on a mad reading slump because of one of Hly Black's stories. I even forgot what book I was struggling with, which was The Book of Night. I was not a fan, let me just say, but anything to do with the Folk of the Air world, I'm drawn into it. I'm intrigued. Maybe it's because I'm more of a fan of like the fantastical stories rather than more paranormal. Book of Night did have its unique factor, but I was really bored throughout it and didn't care for any of the characters. So I'm happy to be back into the Folk of the Air series, and I hope I end up really liking this book. So because it's kind of gloomy and rainy, I really wanted to read more darker things. I mean, what do you know, I've done a few of the Spooktober TBRs which completely failed, and I actually still need to read some of the books on those TBRs like for the last 2 years. We won't talk about that. So the first book that I have here, I've been meaning to read. Oh my gosh, it's a little dusty. It's been in my room for ages. Yes, this is a book that I've been meaning to read for a while, ever since it got a little bit of buzz in the book community, and that is My Sister the Serial Killer. This is by, oh my gosh, I hope I don't butcher her name, but Oyinkan Braithwaite. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if I just butchered her name. I think I was mainly intrigued by this book based on the title, and also like the art design of the book is so stunning. I love this like cleaning spray with the... Anyway, basically the title gives it away. I think you're in the perspective of one of the sisters. Yes, basically her sister is a serial killer and she keeps calling her saying that she's killed her new boyfriend and she's like cleaning up after her sister. It just seems a bit more satirical. I don't know if this is going to be a serious read or if it's going to have like comical aspects throughout it. I don't know if this is going to be kind of like a comedy of errors situation where her sister ends up dragging her into these murders and she can't help but to, you know, clean up the mess after her, or if she's going to be in serious danger because her sister is a serial killer. I would like to think that this is going to have more of a lighter tone rather than a serious dark tone. It definitely seems more of a satire, but honestly it's been a long time since I've read any reviews about this. I don't know what to expect, and oh my gosh, you can probably hear the rain right now outside. Please ignore that. It is going to be a relatively short read, so I guess there's nothing to lose. I hope I end up loving it because I don't know, something about this book is just aesthetically pleasing to my eyes. I cannot wait to get to this one and I hope I end up really liking it. The next book I have is a collection of short stories and it is Her Body and Other Parties. This is by Carmen Marie Machado. Again, don't come at me. I'm really bad with pronouncing names. I'm sorry. I will do better in the future, hopefully. By the way, this kind of matches like a green theme going on here. I don't know. I like it. This is a collection of short stories, which I've heard really good things about. It's kind of got a dark and twisted angle to each story. I hear that this is kind of categorized into more of the horror genre, but I don't know what to expect, especially because it's a collection of short stories. I have read a few collections before. I definitely feel like I've had bad luck when it comes to short story collections in the past few years. So I'm really hoping that I end up really liking this, especially because a few booktubers that I follow have really highly recommended this. It has been on my TBR for quite some time now and hopefully I finally pick this one up and give it a read. Oh, on the back it says these stories go between magical realism, science fiction, comedy, horror, fantasy and fabulism. Whatever that means. I guess I can't help but be excited about those, you know, genres. Have you read this? Let me know your thoughts and feels. I'm kind of excited. And again, this is going to be a quick read, I hope, because it's not too long, even though it's a collection of short stories. It's 241 pages, so not long at all. Hopefully I get to this one soon. Maybe I'll get to 1 or 2 stories every now and then. And by the end of, you know, the winter season, I would have finished this. I'm excited. I do want to get to this one. It's been on my TBR for a while. The next book that I have is an interesting one. I forget whose video I watched, but I remember I was convinced to getting this book because I watched a video on YouTube of someone I followed. I just forget who. But anyway, this is Revenge by Yoko Ogawa. It's also been a while since I bought this book. As the title suggests, it's, I guess, about revenge. Okay, so this one I don't know much about. All I know is that it's by a Japanese author, it's twisted, it's messed up, and it's about revenge. Usually I'm really into these stories. Recently I've been watching The Glory, so I'm all about the revenge stories right now. I don't know what to expect from this. Hopefully it's not too messed up because recently I ended up reading a Japanese translated work of fiction and it went through some really messed up and dark things. I'm just gonna, it's over here and it was Earthlings. Definitely look out for a review of this one because I've got thoughts about this. I've got thoughts, so hopefully you'll be hearing about this soon. Messed up. Anyway, back to Revenge. I don't know much about this. It's been a long time since I watched that video ages ago about someone recommending it, and then when I recently went to the bookstore I did see this one shelved everywhere, so I guess there's a newfound hype for it. I'm super intrigued. I do want to read this. Let's just go with the flow. I have no idea what this one's about. I hope that I'm not permanently scarred from this. You know, recently I've been watching a K-drama series on Netflix called The Glory, and I think that's just got me into revenge stories a lot, and so I'm really interested because I don't think I've read a revenge story. I usually like movies that are based on like revenge stories, but books book form, I rarely read it, so I am intrigued by this. And again, there's a common theme here. It's a short book, so hopefully I get to this one in the months to come. That is like my ideal day. Go to a nice cute cafe and just read a book all day until they close. And it's Sydney, so cafes close at like 2 p.m. It sucks, I know. And I'm not a morning person, so there's no way I'm gonna go to a cafe at like 6 a.m. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. The next book that I have here, I'm super excited. This is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This one, I'm super excited for this one because this is legit a horror book. And I'm intrigued by the fact that this is kind of a take on the Wendigo mythology, and it's set in like the mountains of, wait a minute, I have no idea where it's set. I think it's set in like a remote village near the mountains. And let me just say, I'm just so intrigued. I love anything that brings horror and folktale together in like a modern day context. I'm in. I am 100% in. And like the Wendigo mythology or folklore has always been a bit creepy to me. I've never read a book with the Wendigo entwined into it, so I'm very, very curious how this book pulls it off. I did hear a bit of buzz in the book community last year or the year before about this one. I think this was also on like a Spooktober TBR. So sorry, never got to this one, but I will get to this one hopefully this year, especially because the weather's been a little gloomy, a little bit sad, a little bit spooky, and so I am totally in the mood for some mysterious horror story. And so I'm really, really excited for this. Let's read the synopsis for this one because it's been a while since I purchased this book and I need a refresher just to get me excited. Here we go. It's 10 years ago, Ricky, Gabe, Lewis, and Cassidy shot some elk. It happens every year. It's been happening forever. It's the way it's always been, but this time it's different. Now, a decade later, these men are being stalked themselves, hunted, bound to their heritage, bound by society, and trapped in the endless expanses of the landscape. These men and their children must face the ferocious spirit that is coming for them one at a time. That sounds amazing. So I guess, I don't know, they killed the wrong elk. Did they hurt some spirit? It definitely has a creep factor to it. On the back it says, The Only Good Indians charts nature's revenge on a lost generation that maybe never had a chance. Cleave to their heritage, these parents, husbands, sons, and Indians. These men must fight the demon on the fringes of a society that has no place for them. What I hope for this story is that it does entwine some thought-provoking themes throughout it as well. The author is of Native American descent, so I hope that the whole cultural aspect is entwined into this story, as well as kind of like the societal issues that come from being Native American. Hopefully there are more serious themes that are interwoven into the story that question society. So I'm really hoping that this is a book that I end up really, really enjoying. I've got high expectations, even though I shouldn't have too high of an expectation on any of these books. Otherwise, I might be met with disappointment, which is something that I don't want. I don't know, because every time I've come across a booktuber that has talked about this book, it's always been quite positive, and so I am intrigued. I've been meaning to read this book since last year and I never got to it, so hopefully this is the year. I really, really do hope I get to this one. Based on the little synopsis I read, it kind of reads as if they're kind of stuck in limbo somewhat. I'm sure it's not, but that's what the synopsis makes it sound like. But maybe it's kind of more of a generational curse or something. I don't know. I'm intrigued. It's been a while since I've read a horror book, and so I am in for it. I'm in for a treat, I hope. The next book is a fantasy. This is a book that I probably hauled a while ago, and it was probably on one of my TBRs a long time ago, but I've never had the chance to read it. It is Blood Air by Emily Wzza. I've been meaning to read this. This is the first book in a trilogy, I think. I haven't heard too much about this book since its initial release, and so I don't know if it's any good or not. I was rooting for this. It's basically set in a fantasy world that's inspired by Russia, I think. This definitely has a Lost Princess story arc / revenge story arc. Common theme here. I'm really liking the revenge stories, and so it does have a revenge angle to the story, the main journey for the character. So intrigued. It is set in like a fantasy world, and also something about the cover gives me like wintry landscape, and so I'm hoping that this sort of landscape, why do I keep going out of focus? This is so annoying. What was I saying? Oh yeah, I hope hope that this landscape, snowy winter wonderland kind of aesthetic gets translated into the actual world. The main character is basically framed for the murder of a family, and so she's on the run. But obviously this is a false accusation as these fantasy plot lines go, and so she's on a quest for revenge and also to reclaim her place on the throne. I think it sounds very typical, not gonna lie, but I don't know, I hope I end up liking it. The next book on my TBR, it's definitely a book that has been on my TBR for a while, and I really wanted to read it because it totally gives me like Stranger Things vibes. It's My Best Friend's Exorcism by, oh, who's the author for this again? Grady Hendrix. Just based on looking at the cover, it just gives me like 80s aesthetic. Like it has that very, what is it, old school VHS aesthetic to it, and I love it. I know that Grady Hendrix has released a few more books since this one. They've all gotten a fair bit of hype in the book community, but this one also hyped in the community a while back, but I never ended up picking it up. So here it is, and I really hope that it lives up to this, you know, stunning cover. I heard that it's a little bit cheesy, but maybe that's the point of these stories. They're kind of satirical in nature, and so it's going to be kind of over the top, but I'm in for a bit of a treat. I do want something a little bit more cheesy out of this one. I think the title says it all. It's a friend who has been possessed, and so they need to exorcise her. Who knows how they're gonna do it? I don't need to know much more. I hope it's gonna be a fun read, and hopefully I end up liking this book because I am interested in picking up other books by Hendrix, so I'm intrigued. Hopefully I end up liking it. So the next book I have is The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik. This is the third book in the Scholomance series. I am sick of this camera going in and out of focus. Stop it. Maybe it's because this book is shiny as well, but it's kind of annoying. Maybe I should come a little closer, be a little intimate. Anyway, so The Golden Enclaves, I've been meaning to pick this book up because I'm a huge fan of the Scholomance series, as you know, or may not know. I'm definitely a fan of this series. I really like the concept. It's very heavy on the world building. I guess like the plot and the characters come second, but there's so much that is going on. It has a magical school setting, but far more deadlier than Hogwarts, and that's saying something. Finally, in this one, I think it's gonna be set outside of the school, so hopefully we have further expansion on the world, even though it's very heavy in the world building inside the school, but we still don't know much about the world, like the whole hierarchy of the wizards of the world. I've been meaning to pick this book up. I love the character, especially the main character. She's so sassy. Since this is the third book, I can't really say much about the plot, but basically the first book, which is A Deadly Education, is set in a deadly school, and it plops you right in the middle of like her third year into the school, so you kind of have to kind of pick up the culture of the school. The gal has adjusted. She has this reputation of being like a world destroyer, like she's been prophesized to bring ruin upon the world, so she lives with that. She's very sarcastic, and she tries her best not to, you know, fulfill that prophecy, but she can't help that other people end up like judging her for it and stuff. It's really funny, and there's a whole hierarchy thing going on within the school. There's like the elites, and then there's also people that come from nothing that really need to work hard. It's a whole thing, and I found it very fascinating. I loved the school. The school doesn't have any teachers. The building itself is like in a void, and you gotta kind of self-teach yourself how to become a full-fledged wizard. They don't call themselves wizards, but there's some sort of sorcerers. So it's like a school that you gotta survive because there's monsters in it. They're constantly killing students, and so you gotta make alliances. It's a whole thing. I love it. I would highly recommend this series, and so I'm super excited to get into The Golden Enclaves. Can't wait to get into the Scholomance series. I don't know if it's ending. Is it a trilogy? I get the feeling that she's gonna write one more book. This one's a bit of a cute read, but the next one I've also been meaning to read for a very long time because this one has gotten hype. Let me tell you, every booktuber that I've come across has nothing but praise for this story, and it is Nevermore by Jessica Townsend. This is a middle grade fantasy story. People are saying that this is to replace Harry Potter, but as much hype that it gets on booktube or in the book community, it's not on the level of Harry Potter. And I know people are cancelling JK and like trying to boycott Harry Potter, but like you can't deny the phenomenon of Harry Potter, and it's just above and be honest, it's like an IP now, and so I think Nevermore, like there's definitely a fan base within the book community, but it's not on the level of Harry Potter, even though people are saying that this should be the next Harry Potter. And because I've heard that kind of buzz about this story, I've always wanted to read it. Nevermore follows a girl who's again prophesized to die this time before her 11th birthday. Oh my gosh, she's so young. But before she's fated, someone comes to be her rescue. Maybe not, maybe an even more dangerous person comes into her life and just whisks her away to the secret city of Nevermore. It just sounds whimsical, it sounds magical but also dark, and it's also middle grade, so I'm sure it's not going to go super dark, but I hope that I end up really liking the characters, the story. This is the one book on this TBR that's kind of a little lighthearted, and so I hope I end up really loving it. And honestly, I really want to read this one sooner rather than later. I definitely want to get to this because I've been meaning to read this for the last, I don't know, however many years. Look at the in pages. It's so pretty. Oh my gosh, the illustrations. So the next book I have here is Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. This just gives me folklore fantasy vibes. You know what? Let me read the synopsis for this one because I'm confused. It's been a while. Once upon a time, there was a horrible girl. Oh, Vanja Schmidt. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. Names are not my forte. Anyway, continuing. Knows that no gift is freely given, not even a mother's love. The adopted goddaughter of death and fortune. My camera cut me off. Don't know where I read up to, but based on the synopsis, it seems like our main character is a little bit of a jewel thief, but also she decides to glamour herself and trades places with, I guess, the mistress or whoever the nobility is that she was serving, and she's been cursed to turn into stone. I don't know what sort of mythology this author is drawing from, but it's very intriguing. The story concept, there's a lot going on. It is definitely a thicker read compared to all the other books that I have. I'm wondering how much I'm gonna like the main character, whether she's gonna be sympathetic. Regardless, I am intrigued. I hope that I end up liking this. It definitely has a more fairy tale aspect to it. You know I'm gonna like something like this. Hopefully I do. I've got one more book to share. This one is more of a personal one for me because, you know, I want to get more into my culture. If y'all don't know, I am Korean. Been really meaning to find good translated work because I'm not the best at Korean. Any sort of old folktale lore that comes from Korea, I kind of need it to be translated into English. At the beginning of the year, I did end up picking this collection of short stories, and it is Tales of Korea by Im Bang and Yiruk. This is just like a collection of old folk tales and mythologies that come from Korea. My background is Korean, and I've been wanting to write some stories that is based on Korean mythology, and so yes, I did want to read these stories, and they have like not cute, but old-timey kind of paintings and artworks based on the mythology in the book as well, which I really appreciate. It's something that I've been meaning to read and meaning to create stories based on some of the mythologies that I research and find more about. So hopefully I get inspired by some of the stories in here. I'm intrigued. I think the cover of this edition is so pretty. I mean, this tiger design, oh, so nice. So yes, this is the final book that I have for you today. Not as heavy as I expected, but these are all the books on my TBR. Okay, so there's 10 books there. Hopefully I get to all 10 books. I don't know. These days I've only been completing one book a month, and that is an achievement in itself. Hopefully I get a bit more speedy at reading. Anyway, I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna read more of Stolen Air. Hopefully I get that read and finished soon, and I'm just gonna chill for the rest of the day at home and try and get better. I'm gonna make myself some tea now. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this TBR video. If you have read any of these, no spoilers, but let me know if you enjoyed some of these or not, whether you recommend these to me. Either way, I'm gonna read these books, but hopefully some of your opinions gets me more excited to read these stories. Anyway, I hope you guys are all staying safe and sound, and you know, stay warm and take care of yourself, and I guess I'll leave it at that. I hope you guys are all doing well, and happy reading, everyone. Bye.